I actually didn't even know, I didn't know what this would look like. So I actually started building this all on a personal laptop, just free and clear of Adobe IT and whatnot, and was building it during weekends and whatnot as a hobby. So ultimately, from like a pure, I have to I have to fund this myself, because this is not a blessed project from Adobe. This is a research project. This is Chris Millar's own crazy idea. So at first, DA only worked on a file system. It only worked locally. I actually used a file system because I didn't have anything else. It was like Node FS.
Right.
So then it was like, okay, got to move it into a server. What does this look like? And so with enough research, and this is pre LLMs, with enough research, I realized that we could sort of kind of fake a tree with S3 prefixes. And so it was like, what's this proved to be like just incredibly insightful, in that we I started saving into S3 and started to like really figure out like, okay, how do we show folders? How do we list, just one level down so we're not just blowing out the whole tree. What does it look like to have an empty folder? Because for prefixes to show in S3, you have to have a file inside the folder. It's like, okay, so what does that look like? And so there was enough. So after doing the research and considering Sling and considering Mongo, um, even I think there was a point where I was like, would Dropbox be an answer? Because this idea, like we still believe this very strongly, which is like in edge delivery is like meet your authors where they are. So
Right.
I was like, ooh, maybe the idea of bringing some of your own service, your own content is a great idea. It's just like the fine print that is the problem. Like a docx file is not a very hospitable environment for the web
Right.
at scale, anyways. So ultimately decided, long story short, we're going to say flat HTML files in S3. The HTML file format will be edge delivery minus, we will persist fully qualified image URLs, which was great because then we could reference these little things that we didn't even think about at the time. We could reference other CMSs. So all of a sudden, like when we went to build AEM assets, it was like kind of laughable because it took like a week to build. It was like, do you have AEM assets integration? Yeah, we like Adobe
Just
provides
do that
a
together.
front end. Yeah,
Yep.
Adobe provides a micro front end. We had like a 50 line wrapper, if that, or around it. Um, and and so what was great is like as long as your image was published, we had it. And so it was like it really actually that particular example was good because it really showed that like we could bring the power of AEM to document based authoring and edge delivery. Um, and so that's when we just started to, or I guess I shouldn't say we at this point because like this is all research at this point.
Right.
And so um, started to research editors and then actually dropped the project for easily 6 months. I actually had to actually go solve that localization problem. This is one of those things where you're like, almost like you're bargaining with your parents, where you're like, no, I want to go play with my friends, and it's like, no, you have to do your homework. And so it was like my homework was y'all need to make uh, localization scale on SharePoint. Like
Mhm.
you got us in, and to be fair, like I had to do this because in a lot of ways I got us into this mess. I was the one that said SharePoint's going to be fine. Um, so I put all the research down and got scalable localization out the door. Um, and then sort of started to poke at this again, poke at this idea again, and actually did a Discord call. And it just, the Lars and I did a Discord call, and I had nothing to talk about, or neither of us had had anything to talk about. And it was like Halloween or something. And just serendipitously, Carl Pauls had joined the call, and I was going through like, hey, here's web components on edge delivery, and I'm just showing DA at this point.
Right.
and it was like, here I am just talking about like web components and edge delivery and how you can bridge these worlds and stuff. And I'm clearly just showing like a full blown document based editor built by Adobe, like wired up to edge delivery. Um, so Carl was like, this is kind of interesting. This is like none of us like SharePoint. And all of us kind of really like document based authoring. This is kind of an idea. Would you want some help on this? I'm like, yeah, I'd love some help. So what's funny is like we all we do these hackathons, we do these workshops. They're not really hackathons. They're more like, um, and so we did this workshop, and Carl and I went to this workshop, and we thought we were just going to work on DA. Um, and there were maybe like 25 other people at this workshop, and they were all kind of working on different things. There were some folks working on block collection. There were some folks working on Helix 5. I almost said Helix 6 because I've been saying Helix 6 lately. Um, and so what's funny is like at that point, David Nuschler, who's kind of considered the owner of Edge Delivery, um, I was really worried about showing it to him. Um, and then eventually enough folks were like, no, you really got to show David this. This is pretty cool. Because again, we were all sort of drinking the same Kool-Aid that he was drinking, which is like, look, go meet authors where they are. If the authors
Right.
are a SharePoint shop, go meet them at SharePoint and deal. And so I was really reluctant because I'm like, this really goes against everything we tell our customers. This goes against everything we tell ourselves. This is everything. This goes against everything I have personally said. Like build your own editor. This is a fool's errand. So I was really worried that he was going to shut it down, and that's actually part of why I was building it on a personal computer, because like I had invested in this and I was super excited about this, and I'm like, what do I do if Adobe shuts this down and says don't work on this? Like, and just again in pure transparency, I was like, I'm going to build this all open source. I'm going to build this all on a personal laptop. And so if Adobe does say no, don't pursue this, I at least want to have the option to say, well, maybe I should take this and take it somewhere else. And luckily, David was like, this is awesome. This is like this is a great plan B, plan C. There's something to this. Gave me a big old laundry list. Like we had this quick meeting, and it's funny because I told him, I was like, I have to show you something that I don't want to show you, and he's like, this is gonna be fun. Because and so I just set the stage. I'm like, I really don't want to. I don't want you to tell me no. I don't want you to shut this down and say this is a bad idea, because I think I may disagree with you, and we usually tend to agree. And so he's like, you think I'm a big fan of SharePoint? And and so he kind of had the same sentiment as us, which is like, we're not the biggest fans of SharePoint. It's that we're real big fans of the productivity and the low support and everything that comes with document based authoring. So it's like, hey, go research this. This is a great research project. Keep plugging away. And BT Dubs, here's 5 pet features I'd like to see. So that was kind of like a loose blessing to keep going. So then fast forward 4 months, and we're doing this hackathon, and he says like up at the beginning of this workshop, Chris Millar is going to be. We have these tracks. One track is block collection. One track is Helix 5, and then we have this other track, which is DA. And what's funny is like Carl and I just thought we were going to work on real time collaboration.
Mhm.
I thought he was going to work on real time collaboration, and I thought I was going to work on authentication. And what ended up happening is we had like 5 other engineers be like, well, we want to join your track. This looks cool. And so that's really where DA started. And that's where the we came to DA. Like all these incredible folks, Marcus Hack and Andre and uh gosh, David Catalan and all sorts of Andreas from NetCentric.
Mhm.
We all just like started plugging away. And so um that that's sort of the genesis of DA.